Welcome to NightMerica, a podcast that takes you on a tour of the abnormal, paranormal, weirdly true, and truly weird in every corner across this nation. Because, to paraphrase Ray Parker Jr., whether it's ghosts, aliens, monsters, or monstrous humans, there's something strange in your neighborhoods. I'm Aaron Sagers. I'm one half of this hosting duo, and I'm a paranormal journalist, historian, folklore fan, done a lot of stuff in the paranormal world, and I am joined, as always, well, I mean, we're only a couple episodes into this. You could decide to bolt at any moment.
Never.
But right now,
I am in it to win it. Hey guys, I'm Britt. I am not a paranormal journalist, but I am a paranormal fangirl, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for listening.
Yes. Thank you for listening. We're like now... a couple
few episodes in.
How do you think this is going?
I'm happy with it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. Just want to take your temperature on this matter.
I think I could be a little quieter. I'm sorry for the sound, everybody. We are not true audio technicians, but we're learning.
Have you felt like you've learned anything about the paranormal or anything thus far? Or
Ooh,
any theories? Or developed any ideas of your own?
Nothing too different.
You're like, no. You've taught me nothing, Aaron.
No, but I came into this knowing a significant amount about the paranormal. I mean, obviously not as much as you, but...
Well, nobody really knows. It's all theory, right? So
yes.
No one exactly knows, but...
Yeah. I think for me, what it's kind of stemmed, being someone who is such a fan of true crime, is how relatable true crime is to ghosty stories. I mean, of course, you think of murder, you think of horrible deaths. Of course, ghosts come out of it. But so often I've listened to true crime podcasts where that's just kind of where the story ends. And I think that's what's nice is we can dig into what else is out there.
Even though you probably know more about true crime than I, it's always been interesting for me when you look at history and dark moments in history or very violent, tragic moments in history that obviously lends itself to ghosty stories. And part of it might be, if you want to take the paranormal theory, that when something really tragic or violent takes place... The theory is that, okay, it's going to leave some sort of imprint on a space, or maybe there's going to be unresolved spirits that suffered at the hands of some sort of trauma, so they stick around. But the flip side of that is the very non-paranormal the very non-paranormal idea behind ghost stories is that we tell ghost stories to keep history alive. And we do it without just saying in 1954 someone murdered someone else, or tried to kill someone in 1964 with a ball peen hammer or whatever. It's it's instead a way of keeping that history alive, which I think is as valid as if there's actual ghosts,
So
trying
true.
to keep the
I
history
hadn't thought
alive.
about that.
Yeah. So when you get a lot of these true crime things, I'm always curious about what the current cases are, what current true crime cases or, recent cases that will then later lead to some sort of ghosty story.
Very true.
Either legitimate ghosts or just stories that have emerged out of it.
Yeah.
Just something that I think about.
Interesting.
So, on that note, we're kind of going in a different direction, and I'm pretty excited about this topic. Though it is different than a location base, I guess it sort of is a location. I'm going to talk a little bit about the internet. You've heard of the internet,
I have heard
right?
of the internet.
The World Wide Webs, the cybernets, the I don't know what else do they call it.
And when did you first get the internet? What age were you?
About 2 weeks ago. And wow. There's a lot of things out there. Now, I did have it in middle school, a very early version of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Middle school?
Actually, I didn't have it. I would go over to a friend's house and
Okay.
he had dial-up.
So I was going to say, I had it in middle school.
And we would play some games on it, and it was very cool. I mean, he was very much ahead of his time with that dial-up. I think it was America Online, and then there was another company, which now eludes me, that perhaps...
AT&T.
No,
wasn't it? Where it was like...
Well, that's the dial-up sound, the modem sound. Me personally, I started using it regularly probably freshman year of college or after high school, and then had my own computer with the internet on it.
Got it.
And then you?
I had it in, I was going to say middle school, probably about 6th grade, right? Middle school is 6th, 7th, 8th. So we had it in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And we used it mainly for AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, and we would chat. And that's what we mainly used it for.
What was your handle back in the day?
Oh, God. It was Dancer 1089.
Dancer 1089.
I was a dancer, and my birthday is October, and I was born 1989.
I forget what mine was. I think it was Passage something, because I created this whole superhero story.
What's Passage from?
I created this whole
character. Your own.
Yeah.
Got it.
And it was called Passage, I think. But...
No, it was a basic white girl and was Dancer 1089.
I'm pretty pleased. I'm pretty proud of the fact that, as we're doing this podcast and approaching this from two different generational perspectives, I'm pretty pleased with the fact that I grew up without the internet and then was early enough that I then had it and it became a resource, because I kind of I straddled
that line.
Yeah.
Do you remember talking to girls on AIM? Was that like a thing for you? It was a big thing for me growing up. Talking to boys.
Yeah. I remember there was this chat function early on, and I forget which thing it was, but I met some girls and made pen pals out of it. And some of them I was friends with for a very long time. And there's even a friend that I still have that I met, 20 some odd years ago online. And so I was in chat rooms and chat functions. There was this one person, I may have told you about this before. There was this one person that I talked to, and I still don't know if she was full of it. We don't talk anymore. But she said that she was like a girlfriend to one of the band members of the band the Goo Goo Dolls back in the day. Goo Goo Dolls and Gin Blossoms, they pretty much occupy the same mental space for me.
Yes, of course.
And that she was like, oh, I gotta go. I'm on the
She was
tour
completely
bus.
Making that up.
No, but who knows? Maybe not.
I know. It was probably me. She was making it up.
But she wasn't like trying to catfish me or anything. Like,
no, she was totally making it up.
I don't know. Maybe not.
I can tell you that.
You don't know.
As a girl who was on the internet, she was making it
up.
Yeah,
but this was before you were born. So this was pre-internet. Like, before anyone lied on the internet. Like, it was back in the days when everybody was pure and honest on the internet.
Wow. What are those days? What year was that? 1800?
Yes, 1800s of the internet. Yes.
More
like 1996.
I will tell you. So I have a great story about the internet and internet dating.
Is this your segue?
No.
Oh, okay.
So when I was in 8th grade, I fell in love with the grocery store cashier in our local town.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was the cutest person I'd ever met in my life. And I slipped him my AOL Instant Messenger screen name.
So, okay. This almost reveals how old you are to any potential younger listeners.
I'm 30.
That you wrote down on a piece of paper your AOL. You can hear my ice. Sorry, I'm drinking a zombie today. A
I
1970
wrote
version was
on a
on me.
receipt. So I grew up in the Midwest, so we had Jewel Osco, and I wrote on my
I don't know what that is.
It's a grocery store. It's like a
Oh.
Safeway or whatever.
Okay.
I wrote on the Jewel Osco receipt, dancer underscore 1089, and handed it. And back then, you could have these things where you saw who looked at your AIM profile.
Mm.
So I saw someone with like escape artist. He's totally going to listen to this. I'm so sorry, Ryan.
Wait, do you think he will?
Oh, totally.
Do you actually still know this person?
Yes. So Ryan ended up being my first ever boyfriend.
Wow.
That was like my foray into online dating, quote unquote.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is very exciting. So
it was exciting.
The internet is an amazing thing. It's an amazing tool. It's also a very dark place, especially if you want to go into dark places. Sometimes surprisingly dark when you don't expect to encounter nasty, beastie things in there, you know? Some, when I say beastie, like, you know, kind of creepy type of things. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. And I mean, I have a lot of cool stories that are paranormal in nature.
Great.
Out of the internet. I don't know. I mean, I honestly, I don't even know where to begin with the stuff that I was going to talk about. But, I mean, pretty much like, there's this idea of the ghost in the machine. And it's based off of a theory by René Descartes. And
René Descartes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This
idea of the ghost in the machine is basically that our minds and bodies can operate on a separate level. At its core, the idea is that our bodies are the machine, and the ghost is our mind. But what if our mind could live on without our bodies? And there's stories that come out of the internet that sort of suggest that is possible. And look, I mean, within paranormal theory, there's a lot of technology and equipment that kind of lends itself to either ghosts or specters or spirits communicating. Not Phil Spector. That is a true crime story, though. Right?
It is a true crime story.
But things like the ghost box, or people receiving phone calls after someone has died, things like that. So one of the stories I wanted to talk about was a gentleman. I discovered this story on Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt, but it is a pretty interesting, pretty creepy story. It's someone from 2013, I believe, and it was someone that felt like they were being haunted by their dead ex-girlfriend, or not ex-girlfriend, dead girlfriend on Facebook. Apparently, this young woman had died tragically, and they'd been dating for 5 years, and he started getting messages from her Facebook account. Now, you know, obviously you would think, like, someone else is doing this, someone else is messing with him, but the only other person that supposedly had access to her account was her mother, who said, you know, wasn't already too tech savvy, and
and of course wouldn't play around with her daughter's Facebook. Wouldn't play around with that.
Yeah, that'd be pretty morbid.
Yeah,
but he started getting messages about initially just repeating things that he had sent her in various message forms. And then it just continued to escalate to the point where it started to sound like she was referencing the ways that she had died. That she was cold, that she wanted to go for a walk. And this story was that she, in this tragic car accident, had her at least part of her had been severed, her legs. So it seemed like this conversation was coming from either a hacker who knew how she had died or was actually the girlfriend. Enough that this guy, and this sounds very real, that this guy said that he was punched in the gut every time he received a message. And he was disturbed and he was angry. And
Well,
he
of
thought it
course
was
you'd feel sick.
he thought it was a hacker, but he kept it going because he didn't want to let this idea of her go away. And over enough time, she started referencing things that were even more personal. Like, he said that she always smelled like cinnamon. And then at one point he received a message that was referencing cinnamon. Sometimes it was just gibberish or word salad. But it got to the point that after several months of this happening, she emailed him saying like freezing, cold,
God.
and that she was starting to panic. It was all just very sad.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it was causing a lot of torment for this guy. But the takeaway from all this is whether it's just a Reddit story or not, it makes you wonder. It makes me wonder that if we invest so much of our energy, so much of our personality, so much of our lives in social media, sharing of ourselves, how much of that creates like a bit of an energetic imprint?
Yes.
How much of that becomes ourselves online?
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of paranormal stories about spirits that can attach themselves to objects, to
Annabelle,
to a doll, to although I find that story very dubious, but objects. Energy can be attached to objects. That objects can be haunted, houses can be haunted, people can be haunted. So why not a social media profile? Why not online itself?
Well, what's interesting...
What is it about bits and bytes online that would prevent, that energy from connecting on there? Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just saying, so you said this came out in 2013?
That's when, so his girlfriend passed away in 2012, and August 2012, and by September 2013 is when he started receiving messages.
So in 2014, I think July of 2014, a movie came out called Unfriended. Have you heard of this movie? Yeah, I just watched it. It's about a bunch of friends who are Skyping, and a friend of theirs has just committed suicide because of cyberbullying. Yeah. And it's now believed that she has come back through the computer and is now taunting all of them, and
Well, there's stories of supposedly haunted machines themselves. There's a lot that you can find out there. There was one that was dated 2015 of a supposedly haunted MacBook Pro that was sold on eBay.
Whoa.
And the idea with that was that it wasn't necessarily negative, but it was haunted
by the emotions of an art student. Was
Yes.
it crying all the time and wearing skinny jeans?
I don't think so. It was instead the MacBook Pro itself was said to levitate, and then would randomly display creepy wallpaper.
I want this computer.
Really, I don't. Seems
buggy.
I
totally would.
Now,
just out of interest.
I would just be like, I really just need to work on this article right now. Please don't levitate. This is bad timing.
But, sometimes you get carpal tunnel because the computer is at a lower point. So if it levitates, you can have it at a higher point.
If you could be like, look, I need you to levitate like a quarter inch. Okay, good. Stay. But, yeah, there's a lot of stories about, objects and items being either haunted, or some say possessed, some say demonic attachments, all sorts of stories with that. Annabelle is supposedly demonic attachment. But yeah, we put so much of ourselves online. Have you, I don't know if we talked about this, have you read the book Good Omens?
No, but I know the story.
Yeah, it's comedy.
Yes.
It's comedy. It's Neil Gaiman, Terry Pratchett. But there's a point where in the book they talk about angels dancing on the head of a needle, and that's a classic expression. But within that, they're like, well, if angels are small enough to dance on the head of a needle, then they're also small enough to travel through the phone system or through the internet and things like that. I'm like, well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Interesting.
Yeah. Anyhow, there's a lot of cool stories of like haunted internet and haunted online.
Yeah.
But there's also terrible stories
There's
that are objectively, factually true.
Yes.
Connected to the internet.
So my story today is a real downer.
All right.
So get ready, guys. I got most of
Strap
my
in.
information from a Rolling Stone article by Bryn Lovett, as well as a Washington Post article by Megan Flynn. And I am telling the story about the murder of Sydney Loof. So, Sydney was a 24-year-old from Lincoln, Nebraska. I couldn't find a lot of social life information online, but on November 15th, 2017, she was wrapping up her shift as a cashier at Menards. Do you know Menards? It's like
I feel like I do.
It's like a locally owned home improvement store. It's great. Like the ones in the Midwest are very
I feel like I've been there, like in Ohio or
Yes,
something.
they're family-run home improvement stores with like cute little bits of coffee and cookies. Like you know the name of everybody in there. It's just a really well-run organization. So she is wrapping up her shift as a cashier at Menards and telling all her friends and coworkers how excited she was to go on a second date with a girl named Bailey Boswell. So Sydney's 24, Bailey is 25, and they met on Tinder.
Okay.
So that night at 6:45 p.m., it's documented that Bailey messaged Sydney on Tinder to say that she was outside of her home to pick her up for their second date. At that point, Sydney's phone then turns off, and we never hear from her again. So between then and the next morning, we'll find out what happens. But the next morning, everyone immediately goes into alarm. She didn't show up for her shift at the Menards, which is like red alert. Because she was a very loyal worker. She was a good person. Her mom went to her apartment and found her cat and her car there, but no Sydney in sight. And her mom knows, like, she's really close to her family. She is loyal to her job. She wouldn't just disappear like this. So immediately she calls the police. Right after this, now Sydney's friends, family are all aware. It's on the news. And Bailey's landlord is aware of the situation, and he actually calls police and says that he smells a strong sense of bleach coming from the apartment where Bailey lived. And Bailey didn't live there alone. She lived there with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was a 52-year-old man named Aubrey Trail.
How old was she again?
25. Okay. And he's 52.
Yeah.
So there's that, everybody. Police immediately went to this apartment complex. They know something's wrong. They smell bleach. They see that the walls have been wiped down. In the basement, they can tell it's just off. But Bailey and Aubrey are on the run. They're not there. They've left everything, and they're gone. Almost 3 weeks later, Sydney's body was found dismembered and in several garbage bags.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, scattered along a rural road in Nebraska. It's like an hour and a half from where she went missing. It's so dehumanizing. It's horrible. So Bailey and Aubrey on the run. They're eventually caught in Branson, Missouri. Branson, we all know, it's like the Vegas of the South. They're caught in...
It's not really south.
Missouri's not south?
No.
Oh. I didn't grow up in America. I don't know these things.
But Branson is sort of like, isn't it like Christian Vegas?
It is like a
It's
Christian
like
Vegas.
it's like there was definitely a Simpsons episode where they go to Branson, Missouri.
Is there?
There is. I think it's like the yeah, I forget which episode, but it mocks Branson. Nothing against Branson.
Their commercial was like, whoa, whoa, listen to the music, wasn't it?
Okay, I don't
I
know
think so.
about that, but I'm gonna take your word for it.
Yeah.
But so anyhow, Branson.
So they're found in
not Sin City.
It's
but...
not Sin City. It's like Christian City. Bailey and Aubrey are found there on February 6th. And again, this all happened in November. So they've been on the run for quite some time. And they were caught because Aubrey called a reporter from the Omaha World Herald and confessed.
Okay.
So there's that. He claimed it was an accident that he strangled Sydney. However, when all this came out, police found footage of Bailey and Aubrey at a Home Depot together buying bleach and garbage bags prior to Sydney ever being picked up for that date.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was all
That's pretty
pre-planned.
damning.
Yes, yes. They went to trial. Both were denied bail because obviously these people are runners. During the trial, this was my favorite part. During trial, this idiot Aubrey shouted at the jury, "I curse you all," and then ran a razor blade across his throat.
Okay.
And the deliberation...
It's a little dramatic.
Dramatic. The deliberation after that took 3 hours. Literally, like, that's the jury going back into the courtroom, picking out their sandwiches for lunch, and then being like, this guy totally did it, right? Yeah, he totally did it. Yeah, y'all totally did it.
3 hours of, like, we're definitely convicting this guy, right? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They order their sandwich. They get their sandwich. They go back into their courtroom, and they're like, this dude totally did it, right? The other great part of this, after this, his court-appointed attorney requested a new trial due to mistrial. And it was declined, and the judge was like, it's not a mistrial because he shouted at the jury, right, and he slashed his own throat. So, no, you're declined, but thanks for asking.
Right.
And it's still pending to see if he'll receive the death penalty, but he was given a life sentence. It was set to happen, or Bailey's trial was set to happen last fall, but it was relocated due to a hostile environment in the area.
So when you say last fall, like fall 2019.
2019.
Didn't happen.
And this happened in 2017.
So recent.
So recent. So yeah, Bailey's trial was set to happen in the fall of 2019, but it was relocated due to a hostile environment in the area, and was moved to a town 170 miles west. Actually was set to start March 16th of this year, so only a few days ago. But because of what is happening with coronavirus, it has been postponed to September of 2020.
Is that legitimately why it's been postponed?
Yes.
So, but meanwhile, she's
in jail. With no bail, so they're not getting out.
Right. So, the one thing, the very slim silver lining of this is that I don't think most people that commit crimes like these, I don't think most of them are geniuses. I think most of them
Correct.
are kind of dum-dums.
Yes.
And thankfully they are, because then they basically, get themselves caught.
So I didn't mention...
hang themselves by their own petard, I believe.
I'm really glad you said that, because I didn't mention what got them caught in Branson, Missouri, is that they were posting videos to Facebook saying that they were being crucified. Those were their words. They were being crucified by the police, and the police were chasing them.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because you murdered a girl.
So, do you know anything about this poor girl's family or anything like that?
No, her family's pretty quiet online. I do, however, know that Aubrey Trail, the man, is like a known con artist. Like, he has received several court cases due to bounced checks and fraudulent activity.
Okay, but
And
that's a big
it's a big
difference.
jump from
That is a
murder,
big jump
but
to
he
like
has done
killing
a
a poor
lot of
girl.
like con activity
Okay,
online.
sure. Okay, that you know what? That's fine. I like.
He's not
that's,
murdered anyone
yeah,
before that we
that
know
we know
of.
Like, is there any kind of reason that came out during these trials about why they may have done this to this poor girl?
No.
Allegedly.
Just that. So allegedly, again, this is all allegedly, and I didn't write this in the script because I wasn't quite sure. But allegedly, he had this fantasy of a threesome, of wanting it to be him with two women, and he claimed that he was choking Sydney because that was his fantasy, and he didn't expect it to go this far.
But
They
purchased
all these supplies before she was ever picked up for this date.
And that aside, like, disposing of a body and dismembering a body is pretty extreme. Yeah. I mean, the thing that just like breaks my heart is this poor girl, poor young woman, was going out on a date
that she was excited about.
And
it was a second date.
And then this happens. And it's also, it's very relatable. It's in 2020 and 2019, 2017 when this took place. There's a lot of people that are single, that are out there.
We're
that are
all on
with
online
people,
dating
that
apps.
are like dating people, meeting people online.
Have you ever had a bad date like this? Well, obviously not like
I've
this.
never
but
been
like,
murdered.
Have you ever had a dangerous date from a dating app? Because I have.
I don't recall.
I mean, you're a dude, so it's a little bit different.
It's very different. Like, and I'm aware of that. Like, I'm so aware of it that it's like, I mean, it's creepy out there in some ways.
Yeah. And it would have probably been, so it's 2020 now, it probably would have been in 2018. I met a guy from a dating app when I was living back in Chicago. So maybe it was even, it must have been 2018. I met him at a bar in Chicago. We met for a drink. I don't know if I've ever told you this story before. But he actually got super aggressive with me when I started defending stay-at-home moms. Which is a very weird battle to stand on. Yeah. Yep. So I love to work. I'm a worker bee. I don't want children of my own. But I believe that every woman deserves the right to choose the life that she wants.
Sure.
I was raised by a stay-at-home mom. My sister is a stay-at-home mom. I thoroughly believe that their jobs are like...
I mean, even if you don't think someone should stay at home, it's odd that someone gets really aggressive about it.
It's a weird battle to die on, or a weird hill to die on, I think is the expression. Yeah. So I'm defending to this dude, like... Listen, this is our first date. Already you're fighting with me. Already you want to say you want me to be a working mom. First of all, I don't want to be a mom, period. But it's weird for you.
Also, first date to be talking about what
he
wants you to do. This
dude was just weird.
So he's talking about this in terms of like, when we get married, I'm
like, dude, I'm not even going on a second date with you. So I'm desperately trying to flag down the bartender. We get the check. We split it because I'm like, I don't want to owe you anything, dude.
Right. You just want out.
I just want out. So he goes to shake my hand at the end of the date, and he grabs my hand and he twists it. He like twisted it under so my elbow throws up in the air, and it hurt. Like that really hurts. And I immediately like pulled my hand away, and he looks at me with these creepy eyes and he goes, "It's been a pleasure." And I was like, oh, hell no. So we walk out and I stand by the bartender and not the bartender, the bouncer. And I lean to the bouncer. I'm like, listen, I was on a first date with this dude that's walking out right now. He got aggressive with me. I'm going to stand with you until he walks away because I don't want to get attacked by this dude as we walk out. And the bartender's like, or the bouncer's like, great, like I'll hang with you.
And that's good that you did that, and good that the
bouncer
was very
awesome
cool about
dude.
It. Did you ever hear from this guy again?
Yes. And that is the highlight of the story. He messaged me not even an hour later. He found me on Facebook, messaged me on Facebook Messenger, a link to his SoundCloud account where he made a rap about President Obama. And he messaged me saying, listen, clearly I don't hate women because I wrote a rap about how much I love Obama.
I mean, that's pretty convincing. I feel like this guy, maybe you should have given him another shot.
Can you believe that?
Was it a good rap?
No.
Oh, okay, well then never mind. Fuck this guy.
No, it was a horrible rap. It was like some white dude that went to some highly privileged school writing a terrible rap. I didn't even listen to it. I was like, I listened to like 3 verses and was like,
you listened to 3? You got 3 verses in?
I got 3 verses in.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I sent it to all my friends. Like, yes.
ACA.
Yes. Barack, my homie. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Obama, yeah.
Yes, that was it. I sent it to all my friends. We all ripped him a new one.
That's the most rapping anyone will ever hear me do.
In case you white dudes listening right now, girls send embarrassing things you do to all of their friends. So all of my friends know this dude's rap.
Well, and also maybe don't be creepy, aggressive.
Don't be a creepy, aggressive dude. No.
Yeah.
But to wrap up the story, I do want to give a few tips to my fellow single, 30, and flirty women doing online dating. Okay. Always tell someone where you're going.
Okay.
Better yet, have someone have you on like Find My Friends or whatever on my iPhone. My mom has me on her Find My Friends, just so people know where you are. 2, send a picture of this person's profile to whoever you feel comfortable with. I usually send it to my mom or my friend Catherine, and like so they know who I'm meeting up with. 3, have plans to contact someone the next day so that if you don't contact them, like they know. So I'll be like, Catherine, I'll give you a wrap up of like how my date was. Mm-hmm. So if she doesn't hear from me, she knows to call the police. If you can, Google them. That's my number 4 rule. A lot of people don't give last names. So if they don't give last name, like give it to your friend who's like essentially FBI. Like all girls have that one friend who like can do all the dirt. My friend is Chelsea. She's better than FBI. Number 5, meet at a public location. Do not have them pick you up. Do not meet them at their apartment. Girls, we know more than that. Like, meet in a public place so they can't take you. And finally, if it makes you uncomfortable, don't go. You don't owe these dudes anything. Those are my rules.
Those are your rules?
Those are my rules.
May I reply?
Please.
I mean, I think those are sound rules. I do think that there's a lot of stuff that could apply to guys, too.
Totally. Not just women, anyone.
I mean, I think that, people that are going to be crazy are going to be crazy regardless of, people of all orientations and genders are can be crazy.
Yeah.
And I actually think that, it's easy as a male because traditionally we are less of a statistic to get cocky and let our guards down and end up in situations that we wish we were not in.
And that was my bad date. Those are my date rules.
Well, okay. So that's a good story. I mean, it's a terrible story.
It's a terrible story.
Horrible, no good, very bad story.
Yeah.
And
Sydney was just a good person.
Well, yeah, and just doing something that everyone should be allowed to do is like pursue someone, find love, like or even if not love, find like a date,
find
like
find respect,
just have like a good night out or multiple good nights out, whatever it is you're looking for. You should be able to be safe while doing it. Yep. And these people sound like trash. Well, can I end on a spooky?
I would love it if you did.
Less tragic note,
please.
So I sent this to you. This I became aware of in 2016, and it's not creepypasta. We didn't even get into Slender Man. Slender Man's like a whole other thing.
That's a whole can of worms.
Do you think Slender Man is real?
No.
No?
No.
Dramatic pause.
No, I just don't think it's real. I think it was a creepypasta. It was kind of. I know there's a lot of theories of where it came from, but a lot of people say it came from a storyline on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I don't agree.
Oh, okay.
But
I don't know too much
those
about
were
it.
the gentlemen. Yeah. It was not that I disagree
I don't
with
know.
you. I disagree with it. The imagery of Slender Man goes back a long time. It's a man in a suit. Like that's very like
My bad man.
Men in black suits, like that kind of thing. That
I
goes
was told
back.
as a child that the bad man is watching you. Yeah.
And so Slender Man taps into a lot of like popular tropes. But I do find it interesting that if a lot of people are going to believe in something or put a lot of energy into something, does it then, in fact, create that something? The Buddhist tulpa, the thought forms, that kind of thing. I don't know. But I find it to be an interesting concept that if we put a lot of energy into something, maybe we might manifest it. But that's not what I'm going to end on. This story reached me around 2016, and I passed it along to you. And I find it creepy just because it's so so odd, but also something I think any of us could experience right now if we tried to. There was a game called Active Worlds, and it was a real time game that was played online. And it was in 1995 is where the game was, and nobody's really on it anymore. And in 2016, this YouTuber named Vine Sauce, I know it's a total YouTuber name.
It's totally a YouTuber name.
Vine Sauce went on to check out Active Worlds, and it should be a digital graveyard. It should be a dead game. Nothing should exist there anymore.
Like a Neopets situation.
It should be a Neopets
Remember
situation.
Neopets?
Not really.
No. It was like a game. Yeah,
okay.
It's dead.
Anyhow, Vinny's walking around, Vine Sauce, aka Vinny, and discovers what he thinks is an NPC, a non-player character, a bot. But then it starts talking to him, and then it starts talking to him in like these very like odd phrases and existential level phrases. Kotaku.com was where I first discovered this story back in 2016, and I passed it along to you. And as Vine Sauce is moving through this area, through this world, this active worlds, this what he thought was NPC, going by the name of Hitomi Fujiko, starts asking him odd questions like, do I exist? Please tell me I exist. There's no one here anymore. Why are you here? And it just starts getting very creepy and very odd. And I felt like it got very haunting, as if there was just like this thing still existing in this world. Did you watch the video? Did you
No,
check
I
it
didn't
out
watch the video.
Did you read? You read the story?
You did not send me this.
Oh, I didn't send
No.
you this? Oh, okay. Well, now I just feel like a jerk for not saying it. I thought I sent this to you.
You sent me like the Slenderman stuff. And the Reddit talks.
It's just like, it feels eerie, almost like you're moving about like a abandoned town, like a ghost town, and then you encounter a person that's still there, creepy. Except it's all online, and it just makes me think about all these like sort of abandoned spaces in this vast open world that is the internet, where people maybe continue to exist, continue to populate these little spaces, and
what's out there?
I know. Maybe it is the ghost in the machine. Maybe it is like, there have been legitimate artificial intelligences, AI, that can be trained to sound like a dead relative or sound like a real person. So who knows what's going on there in the depths of the internet? Do you want to wrap it up? How can people find us?
So you can find us on NightMerica podcast on Instagram. If you have a creepy story to share, you can send it to nightmericashow@gmail.com. If you want to rate, review, and subscribe, we would sincerely appreciate it. You can find us on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yeah, have you had a crazy story that took place on the internet, through dating apps? Let us know. And yeah, find us on That Shop Girl on Instagram. You can also say hi to me at Aaron Sagers on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that good places. All that good places.
All that good places. Your
Florida
Florida's coming
I
out.
know, yeah. The redneck's coming out tonight, guys.
And before we wrap up this week's episode, we'd like to give a special thank you to our first 3 Patreon subscribers. What is Patreon? Patreon is a way that you can support small podcasts like us. Our podcast will always be free, but supporting us through Patreon helps us improve our sound quality, and just lets you know that you support the work that we're doing, the intensive hours of research we spend to bring this to you every week. So we'd like to thank 3 people who are actually all very near and dear to me. Our first subscriber, Tasha H. We also have my good friend, Justin V. And our biggest supporter, my mother, Kelly E. Our Patreon subscribers will get a special mini-sode in their inbox on Thursday. And this week, we start our adventure along a paranormal highway that cuts across our heartland. So to sign up, you can visit patreon.com/NightMerica and join our adventure there.
And wherever you find us, wherever you download us, wherever you listen to us, we hope we find you right back here for another episode of